And we're live. CJ Free Pod. Now we get to see over the next couple of weeks, as CJ is on a vacation that only just highfalutin rich people take, a 2-week vacation, we get to see what his value is, how the pod survives sans CJ.
Sure. Maybe to bring Philip back.
Ooh. Or, shit. Who was the second one? Kristen, right.
All right, I got to adjust my Sixers roster. This is exciting. I have
Yeah.
a little document here.
Yeah. For those listening, you know what? I'm not going to edit this for the recorded people because I don't know how to do it. So if you're listening to this recorded, the pod will start in about a minute and a half. This is the part that goes on YouTube that never gets in the podcast, the filter in. But since CJ isn't here, I don't know how to fix that. So it's going full in. Wow. So, yeah. So what was I going to say? So we're recording this at 10 on the weekend, normally 11 per Mike's request. So it is 7 a.m. West Coast time. It's pretty early for you.
It's a little early. We have some stuff to do this weekend, so I had to get a jump on it. All right, Daniel House.
There you go. Spell it the correct way. Spell it the correct way.
I would spell it wrong?
No. Daniel, quote, should his nickname be Sex? Daniel Sex House? Because of the bubble? Remember why he got thrown out of the bubble?
His nickname would be Sex.
I mean, he got thrown out of the bubble for having sex.
But wasn't there...
It was like with a
No, I know, but wasn't it was a delivery driver, I believe.
Yes,
something like that. But
yeah.
I think that was there was shadiness there where he was covering up for somebody. Like there's a world where
get
like
him
a
on
Tyson
the
Chandler situation or Harden, who knows?
Sure.
I remember it not being like explicitly clear. And
he did get thrown out though.
He got tossed, but like it might have been like a take the fall situation.
Well, he could just be the new Brandon Davies for us, the new representation of sex on the Sixers. Right. We haven't had one in years. So.
Yeah. But I don't know that there was a guarantee that, Brandon Davies was like, I did have sex, and that is breaking the rules at BYU, and I'm sorry for it. But,
yeah. Something tells me Daniel House isn't going to apologize if he did have sex.
And he shouldn't, but I think it was more like interacting. I don't know. Who knows? But I think that there might have been, this whole situation might be, he took the fall for Harden, and now Harden is like, I'll get you back. And this
Harden definitely has sex. That's for sure. So here we go.
I think all the Sixers probably have sex. It's probably good for them.
Good point.
They're well within their rights to be fucking.
Let's go. The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook by using promo code RTRS. Brought to you by Body Bio. Get 20% off anything at Body Bio with code RTRS20 at bodybio.com. LL Pavorsky Jewelers, where Rights to Ricky Sanchez listeners go and get engaged. And our friends at Kinetic Skateboarding get 9.1% off your first order with promo code Dave Silver. On the show today, what a couple of days for the Sixers and the NBA free agency for Brian Windhorst. We will talk about the 3 Sixers signings, the big news out of Brooklyn and Utah. We will make Mike listen to the full Brian Windhorst 2 minutes, which have taken over the internet. We will congratulate former coach Brett Brown on his return to the NBA as he goes back to San Antonio for the Southwest process. Before we get going, Kinetic Skateboarding, as I mentioned, my best way, though I am signed up for their newsletter, which is good, my best way of keeping up with Kinetic is their Instagram. They put all the new stuff on the Instagram. Right now, I saw this morning a brand new group of Poets brand hoodies and t-shirts, which is, I never even saw this brand before, but it's really slick, especially this t-shirt. I can't show it on the screen because CJ isn't here, but the one purple t-shirt is dope. And they have the Stance skateboard socks that have like the 3 color stripes up top, like the old school sort of calf high socks, which are sweet. And if you've ever worn Stance socks, they're awesome. Kinetic Skateboarding is where you go for all that stuff, and sneakers you're not going to find anywhere else. If you order online, use promo code DaveSilver for 9.1% off your first order. Without any further ado, Amos and the Chef.
Larry, sweetie, the man is here. Say the name. I say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We was right, y'all. We were right. say the name. Say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We were right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. 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 I say the name. I say the name. Say the name.
Rights to Ricky Sanchez forever.
Welcome to the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. I'm Spike Eskin, along with a guy who would have had sex in the bubble. That is Mike Levin.
No, I would have been too scared.
Yeah, I would have been scared as well. So let's start off, before we get to the rest of the NBA, which was fucking wild. I think we should start off with the Sixers deals. None of them a surprise except for Trevelyan Queen, and we'll certainly block off 25 minutes for you to go off on him for sure.
So.
PJ Tucker deal was not only the full 3 years and fully guaranteed, but up to $33 million, perhaps because of the increase in cap that the MLE, the full MLE. Daniel House, nicknamed Sex, 2 years, $8.4 million, fully guaranteed. So that is the biannual exception. And then Trevelyan Queen, a 2-year, $3.5 million deal, which I believe is fully guaranteed as well. Sixers now with 16 players on the roster, and the limit for next season as of now is 15. Look, this was, in my opinion, all pretty predictable. I think you could, what's the word? You could hem and haw over the Tucker deal and whether the third year should have been guaranteed and yada, yada, yada. But to get PJ Tucker on the team, it sort of is what it is. I guess the Daniel House thing, I like Daniel House. Look at what some of the other deals were. And you have to convince the player to come here. So there's no guarantee that you could have gotten player X to come here. Daniel House is pretty good. The full biannual exception seems like a little much for him, but he's a good player.
Yeah, for a guy that was on 10 days for some of last season, for sure.
Right. So I don't totally get that. I mean, I think a lot of people said it, but the Dante DiVincenzo deal made me like, I would probably rather have him than Daniel House, but you also have to convince him to come here, which is not, who knows. So there you go. And then Trevelyan Queen we'll get to last, but the Tucker and House deals, like, what are your thoughts on them?
Yeah, I don't think that these are like savvy steals necessarily that Daryl is out here doing, but like the Sixers' issues last season were so painfully obvious that the bench was just filled with either one-way or zero-way guys who weren't athletic enough, weren't strong enough, weren't physical enough, didn't go after loose balls enough, couldn't, hang with the sort of bigger wings of the East, which is, there's a bunch of them. And it required Tobias to essentially become like a way better defensive player than he had ever been before, to even hang a little bit because of how badly Matisse fell off. And then the replacements that Daryl has brought in have just changed the calculus so much. Like D'Anthony Melton is a guy that is going to impact winning on this team like in a really visible way. And he's super physical and plays his ass off. PJ Tucker, same thing. Daniel House is like the most like replacement level James Ennis style wing. Probably a little more athletic than Ennis was, at least for his Sixers time. But like that kind of player. It's just like they had none of these kinds of guys, and now they have several of them. And it's like the bare minimum that they had to do. And I think it's not necessarily like crazy creative, but I think it's absolutely helpful. PJ, I'm scared about the years for a guy that old. He's had, if you look
we'll
at
all
his
be
career,
dead by then, by year 3.
We'll all be dead by then.
Yeah.
The Supreme Court will make sure that we'll be dead or at least imprisoned in some way, and not be able to like even comment about the PJ Tucker third year. But if you look at his career, he has been remarkably healthy for the last like 10 years that he's been since he got back from playing overseas for the bulk of his early 20s. Like he's played 82 games for like 4 or some of those years, and And so just a guy that stays healthy, hopefully it continues. It's sort of the bet that the Sixers are making.
Give us 2 years.
But yeah.
Give us 2 years.
2 years. Give us 2 years, and then these are all like go from like only tiny deals and huge deals, and there's no in between of like you can't move any of these guys to like now there's a couple guys in the middle, whether it's not that you want to, but like PJ, Melton, Dan House, these kinds of like mid-level in the like add 'em up type of deals that you could combine eventually to move for another significant piece. I think that's also helpful thinking about like future flexibility. So I look at the roster right now, like the reason why I was so high on Charlie Brown Jr. last year is because there was no one else on the team that did anything like him. And now, but this is the heel turn for myself. Now I don't think Charlie Brown Jr. should be even on a two-way.
That caller turned you.
No, it's like he was just the only guy that like was athletic and played hard and did anything. He's not a good enough shooter to do anything. I was just like hoping because they had no one else that could like even athletically keep up. And so now they have a ton. We're gonna get to the summer league roster. I obviously love the summer league roster.
We'll get to it.
But like the Sixers now have a ton of options at the wing, a ton of options.
They're capable.
That they can throw at different defenders and stuff, and aren't just like total zeros with the ball in their hands. Even like Danny, who was extremely helpful here, like he couldn't dribble, he couldn't move, and replacing Danny with like PJ Tucker style, like at least he has like a little bit of a floater, and he has like a better passer. He's like a more full basketball player at this point in his career. I think the Sixers will not only be better on defense, but also better on offense.
The PJ Tucker thing or the capable thing is just imagine you had what's his fuck the guy that I said couldn't play in the playoffs and yelled at the bench every time he hit the three. I can't remember his name. Niang. Just like take George Niang and imagine he could like play defense. And that's like sort of what you're not having to do in the playoffs. And you replace it with PJ Tucker, who can do the things you need him to do defensively and also fire away from the corners, and like PJ Tucker plays a different position than Green, but he does sort of fill that corner three, fire away, reliable thing, and
offensively, same thing.
Yeah. And like you look at like DeAnthony Melton and it's like, well, imagine Furkan Korkmaz was capable every time he played. Now he's not going to get hot from three like Furk did, but Furk never did that last year. So I think the house thing, I just, but whatever. He's certainly playable.
He's fine. He was good in Utah. He ended up being like the best defender. He was a better defender than Royce O'Neal for at least the playoff run. They started trusting him more at least. And he's like athletic. He runs. I think I've been making the joke that like Daryl is just like hiring his old friends and bringing them back. But I think more than that, specifically with Daryl, is he's bringing back Harden's guys. He's giving Harden guys that he's comfortable playing with. And whether or not that was like a part of the agreement that he's gotten Harden to get on board with, as far as James taking a significantly less lucrative contract, at least year one, we'll see what they're negotiating it this weekend. So we'll see what it ends up being. But at least like a pay cut in year one, that's, I think, maybe part of it. Like, hey, go get me the guys that I want. And it's like, okay, cool. So if this is what it required, like the Sixers haven't lost anybody significant yet. They haven't traded, Danny, but they lost
Danny
him
Green is significant.
They lost him in the playoffs last year, basically. He wasn't going to play for most of the year anyway. They haven't lost anybody significant that they were going to plan on playing, and they've added 4. We'll talk about Travel and Queen. Let's say 3. I'll be judicious. 3 guys that are like immediate two-way rotation players that they didn't have last year, and so like they're significantly deeper. We'll see what happens with Matisse and Korkmaz or Shake or Niang if they ended up combining some of those guys to get like one more high-level contributor. But like they're inarguably a better team this year going forward than they were last year, and part of that I think is just because like they got Harden right at the deadline, and then Daryl didn't have time to make any additional moves. I think that signing a Daniel House to a 10-day last year kind of thing would have been the kind of move that I would have liked. I don't think it was, I'm not letting Daryl off the hook for just getting Harden last year and not helping the bench in other ways and cycling through two-way guys that could help more or possibly pop. But yeah, I think that they're just in way better shape 2 days into free agency than they were last year, and that's a good sign.
Before we get to Trevelin Queen, so DraftKings, man, they have odds for Kevin Durant's next team. We can't bet them in Jersey, PA, or New York. Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Louisiana, Ontario, Oregon. What's WY? Wyoming. You can bet them. So they do have odds for it. The Sixers are plus 4.
Maybe CJ's there.
Yes,
there right
he
now.
could be.
Betting
Sixers are plus 1,400. Suns are favored at plus 145. The Heat at 265. And to return to the Nets, plus 800. So they do have those odds. Now, for us plebes who are in PA, New Jersey, or New York, DraftKings Sportsbook, still amazing. Same game parlays, amazing. Money lines, futures, all that stuff. Same game parlays, a way to make like a boring game super exciting. And right now, if you're a new customer, you use code RTRS, you get a risk-free bet up to $1,000. That's right, risk-free bet of up to $1,000 by using promo code RTRS. What better way to make a regular season baseball exciting than to have a 8-leg same game parlay on it or something? Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code RTRS. Make your first deposit and get a risk-free bet up to $1,000. Promo code RTRS. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. Trevelin Queen.
I'm impressed that you are pronouncing his name right, by the way.
As opposed to what?
I don't know.
How would I get it wrong? Does it look like something else? Oh, okay. That's fair.
You can pronounce it any way you want it.
There were no periods in between O and G. I mean, it was a long time ago.
Sure, I know.
Sochan looks like Sohan looks like Sochan. Anyway, his YouTube, like if he was a draft prospect at this point, he would be top 10 YouTube big board for me.
Wow.
Like total bucket getter. Like sort of like more long than a normal bucket getter, like sort of not like the physical makeup of the guys that I usually like. They're usually a little more compact, but interesting player and interesting story. Was on Houston last year, wasn't he? And then G League MVP. He was a G League MVP.
Yeah. So now with Trevelin Queen and B-Ball Paul, they have the last 2 G League MVPs, which is really speaking to me. Yeah. So Queen has a really interesting story that you alluded to. Kyle Neubeck has a nice sort of quick write-up of all of it in the Philly Voice, which I would recommend reading. He was on a very spunky New Mexico State team a couple years ago. They lost to Auburn in the first round, and I think it was at the buzzer. He's just a really, really high motor wing that can shoot off movement, and also has like crazy steals numbers. And so, and he's athletic. He's like really, he's very Martin Twin-esque. This is, I think, the like non-guaranteed contract level of getting a Martin Twin. Now, I think they've like settled in. I think he's very similar to those guys. Okay. I think like so both the Martin Twins when they were at Nevada, they like never passed whatsoever. They were like, it was a lot of like ISO ball, and I think Queen is much more share the ball than that. And both the Martin Twins, Caleb and Cody, have had to like evolve their game to be role players, and they're good enough to, and they're a little bit bigger. They're both about 6'7", 6'8", and Queen is 6'6", but really like has a knack for getting his hands on balls. As far as like the like loose ball guy that I've been dying for, of like just comes away with the ball, I think Trev Queen is a really like exact replica of that, of who I've been looking for. And in the world of like, they trade Matisse and they just need some type of quick defense, one possession type of thing. Queen is an option for that, to come in for a possession kind of deal, because he can have those similar like, come from behind blocks and pocket picks and pick six type of like intercepting of go the whole way. Like, he's athletic, he dunks, he's mean, he's physical. He's an asshole. Like, he's great.
What are his
he
negatives?
Plays.
Like, why hasn't he like?
Well, he's 26. He's not young. I think he played at it's kind of a random college. I think his jumper looks a little bit strange. I think that he should have gotten a chance. I mean, was he on a 2-way last year, or at least part of it? he's just a helpful basketball player. I believe in him. I think he's a really solid pick for like if you're gonna go and get a guy that is a little bit more on the fringes, like make sure that they have an NBA skill. And you look at his like steals numbers, and that's like an NBA skill. And the fact that he's not a total zero offensively, like far from it, and he scored at a high level in the G League. I think he's very capable of being a rotation player. And as I tweeted, I'm like already upset that Doc isn't going to play him because he's weird. He's very like the wing version of B-ball Paul. Just sort of like a little all over the place, but effective.
The Sixers have 16 players on the roster, which could mean a number of things. First of all,
Queen is non-guaranteed, but yeah,
the second year,
hopefully
right?
They make it.
Is the first year guaranteed?
I think.
Really?
I think both years are.
Okay. The Sixers have 16 players on the roster. They could do something like cut one of the younger guys, but I think there's probably another trade at some point that ends up happening, and doesn't force them to do that. But if they do, they do. And I'm trying to think who is the most likely candidate in there. I hope it's.
I think pretty clearly Isaiah Joe.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That sucks. Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have a place on the team, at least immediately. It's more, last year we were begging for those guys and he wasn't playing. This year it's sort of more crowded in that area. And he hasn't shown much improvement in the couple of years he's been here. I didn't even think he'd been here 2 years. That's how much.
Yeah, first of all, it's his 23rd birthday today. So happy birthday, Isaiah Joe. You might get cut.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he's definitely the most like natural shooter from distance on this team. From like significant distance, from the 4-point line, to use an old Brett Brown parlance. But he's just, he hasn't hit enough of those shots, even though he's capable of making them. He hasn't done it at a high enough level. He hasn't earned Doc's trust, whatever. I think he's still capable of being like a rotation player somewhere. I think he works hard on the defensive end, but yeah, he's clearly behind a bunch of these guys. I mean, I also think that there's a the other thing we didn't talk about with PJ Tucker is that he's played in a bunch of the places small ball 5.
Yeah.
And giving them the option to go full court spread if one of
absolutely
Paul Reed or Charles Bassey is not like effective enough at a certain point or a certain game, or it's the wrong matchup, or they want to mix it up, whatever it is. I think it gives them the options to do so. Hopefully the fact that I think Doc is very reluctant to be the first guy to try something. I think his instinct is to be stubborn and think it won't work, to try, like, especially going smaller. But because PJ has done it so many other places, maybe he would be more accepting of it. So that you could throw out a lineup of take Embiid out of the starting line and put in basically House or Melton or Matisse if he's still here, with Maxey or Harden, Tucker, and Harris. It's a totally fine lineup that you could spread the floor on, it's a nice option. So I've been assuming that, okay, DeAndre Jordan's gone, signed in Denver, by the way, very funny. Paul Millsap's gone unsigned to my knowledge, but they're going to get some type of veteran backup center, maybe for the minimum, maybe in a trade when it's like to match salary or something. I had mentioned Plumlee last week. But they're going to get somebody like that to just like be here, so Doc doesn't like get too nervous about any of having to play the young guys. Just like Doc needs a little security blanket. He's on an airplane. He's got a long flight. He's gonna need his security blanket. Yeah, Bill Russell would be nice. I think it'd be helpful.
Yeah, Kareem is out there.
Yeah, get
might have too
Kareem
much
in there.
Offensive skill.
No, that'd be great. Kareem coming off a stint as a staff writer on the Veronica Mars reboot. I think he's got some good knowledge to imbue there as the 15th guy. That's what Udonis Haslem is basically doing in Miami. Oh my God, the fucking they had to send a delegation to go make a free agent pitch to Udonis Haslem. What a joke. They're so up their own asses. It's incredible. I hate them. But if Doc believes in PJ Tucker as like if he's actually going to go there, then they don't need to go get a backup 5. So maybe then that's why you'd keep Paul Reed and Charles Bassey over Isaiah Joe or something like that.
So we need to get to the rest of free agency, and then we will circle back on Summer League. There's no better way to introduce free agency than with some real audio.
I'm going to tell you something happened yesterday. The league executives were wondering what the heck it means, and it happened within 5 minutes. In fact, Adrian, the tweet right before Adrian tweeted about Durant. He tweeted something else. There's a trade yesterday between the Utah Jazz and the Brooklyn Nets. It's a very strange trade. Very strange trade. You really have to be a Jazz or a Nets fan to even know what I'm talking about right now.
Okay.
I don't even know if
I'm on
you
the
guys
edge
know
of
what
my
I'm talking
seat.
Yeah,
I have
I've been
notifications.
I don't even know if you guys know what I'm talking about. He says to 3 experts on ESPN. Anyway, continue.
They traded Royce O'Neal, who is a role-playing three-point defensive shooter, to Brooklyn for a future first-round draft pick. And so you're going, well, what do you care about Royce O'Neal? Why does that matter? Why would the Jazz do that? Why would the Jazz, who have 2 stars on their roster, take a player who's one of their starters and best defensive players and trade him in a salary dumping move? Why would they do that?
To open up space to try to land Kevin?
No.
Part of a 3-team trade.
You say, why did Quinn Snyder walk away from that job?
Okay.
And you say,
All right, that moment, by the way, the okay is so great on TV because you can see them all just staring at him like, what are you doing here? It is a great moment.
when Danny Ainge, last time he hired a coach, which was Brad Stevens,
Right.
what happened that same year? What did he do? When he hired this young coach who'd never coached the NBA before, and he gave him a long contract, gave Brad Stevens a 6-year contract. Will Hardy, who they just hired, who was, going to potentially be a great young coach, they gave him a 5-year contract. Very rare for a first-time head coach to get a 5-year contract. Why? What's going on in Utah?
What's going on?
And that's what people in the league are watching right now.
Okay.
What's going on in Utah?
Okay.
And so I think the Brooklyn Nets and Phoenix Suns need to find out what's going on in Utah as well. Because what else happened that first year that Brad Stevens got hired? Danny Ainge traded Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce.
For the Brooklyn Nets.
So that trade, that Royce Young trade yesterday,
Okay.
it's a very strange trade.
Ultimate Windy. Now, I have a friend named Jared, and what Jared does, I call him like Wikipedia guy, because what he'll do is instead of telling you stuff, he'll ask you questions. Like you'll drive by a building that's vacant, and he's like, "Do you know why that building's vacant?" And I'm like, "I don't." He goes, "What happened in 1978?" I'm like, "Jared, will you just fucking tell me like why the building is vacant? Just tell me what you want to tell me." Look, that was an amazing moment. It became an amazing meme, like a great day. I was tired of it by the end of the day. He ended up getting all of this credit after the Gobert trade happened, a trade that had been rumored, by the way, like one of the most rumored players to be traded for the last month in the NBA. It was just an amazing moment. Your thoughts, Mike, the Brian Windhorst expert on the pod.
I mean, I thought it was hysterical. I thought it was incredible. Because he was telling it like it was a spooky story. And he was actually going to and everybody'd come in, huddle in clothes. Everybody just hide. And I'm going to say that. It's like the solution, the point he was getting to was just that the Jazz might tear it down, which is something that people have been speculating for many months.
Maybe years.
And the idea that they're trading a rotation player for a draft pick is like the most evident thing for a team that's deciding to trade it down. It's just not. Look, I loved it. I had a great time. That clip was easily the most I've enjoyed Brian Windhorst in my life, and I enjoy all the memes. And he is really given. I agree that you have to really watch it to get the full sense of it as he's spinning this beautiful tale that he's really has everybody in the palm of his hand. It's wonderful, and the memes are gonna be around for a while. So I'm happy for that. I like the Windhorst discourse generally more than I like listening to him himself. So, but maybe I'm being turned. Maybe he has crossed. He hasn't commented on it. He hasn't responded to any of the memes. He hasn't acknowledged that it was funny or weird he was doing anything. He is just demanding to be taken seriously as a journalist and as a truth teller, and he's just a fucking weirdo.
Well, there's
but I had a blast listening to him. Good for him.
You notice
if he's leaning into it, then great for him.
You
But
mentioned
I don't think
he
he's
has,
capable of knowing that. Sorry.
right. You mentioned he hasn't made a joke about it or anything like that. There's a certain
I don't
group
think he
of
thinks it's funny.
Right. There's a certain group of people in sports media who I bet if you think about it, you've never actually seen them honestly laugh. Like, I bet if you go through every minute of Windhorst podcast, when other people are joking, there's never a moment where he's like honestly laughing. He's just silently waiting for the laughter to end because he doesn't know what's going on, doesn't understand sarcasm, doesn't any of those things. So I imagine he doesn't even know what's funny about it. Like,
That's probably right.
Yeah.
That's probably right. Yeah.
He's
He's so fully himself. He went deep Windhorst in this, and the fact that he's comfortable doing it on live television during like day one of free agency is that's the spooky part of this, is that we could be in for this for forever. That's just listening to someone whisper pedantically to a panel of people on like a debate show, on like very easily like the most like screaming show of all time. It's a real change of pace, and I really got a kick out of it.
Before we get to the rest of the NBA, I've taken a lot of supplements in my life. I eat healthy and I try to exercise, but I've taken a lot of supplements. And one of the things I've noticed with supplements, I remember I was taking glucosamine for my hip. It's like you never know if it's working or not working. And I ended up having to stop taking glucosamine because of when I became vegan. And I was like, oh, you know what? My hip feels exactly the same. So this is to say that Body Bio is a supplement company. And here is something that I take up. I just put in my drink, E-Lite. E-Lite, what it does is it helps you stay properly hydrated. Because to stay properly hydrated, it's not just about drinking water, it's about getting electrolytes too. And I know that it works because I used to have these cramps in my calves and my feet all the time. And I started putting a little bit of E-Lite, just a capful in my seltzer in the morning and one at night. And they went away. And I know that it works too, because if I forget, which I do for 2 days, all of a sudden the cramps come back. E-Lite works. And it is, there's a lot of ways to get electrolytes that, you see, but they all have sugar in them or artificial colors or flavors or anything like that. You don't have to drink one of those. You don't have to spend $3.99 on a 16-ounce, sports drink. Just buy a $8 bottle of E-Lite and put a capful in what you drink, and it makes a difference. Body Bio is a local supplement company. They are family owned and operated. They have a ton of great supplements, and we believe in them. Use code RTRS20 at bodybio.com. RTRS20 at bodybio.com. You get 20% off E-Lite or anything else. You're an E-Lite user, Mike, a regular E-Lite user. The liposomal vitamin C also works for your, if you take a vitamin C supplement, you might as well be taking this because your body will ingest more of it. You can learn more about it at their website. E-Lite is a supplement that I know it works for sure, no doubt, no magic there. And Body Bio is a company that we believe in, and we love that they are local and that they are a Ricky sponsor. Again, code RTRS20 at bodybio.com for 20% off anything that is Body Bio. So the big headline, there are a lot of big headlines in free agency. Kevin Durant requesting a trade after Kyrie Irving opted in. I think we all thought was possible, but it actually happening is stunning. Like, it is obviously this Nets team, the biggest failure of any, star alignment, I mean, like, one playoff series won. First thing, people have brought up the Sixers. I think he's going to work his way to Phoenix. The fact that the Sixers have 0 draft picks to trade, and by matching, or 1 draft pick, I guess they could trade 2029. And by matching salary, their way of matching salary is Tobias Harris, which is not like a great way of matching salary. I think Maxey is a really good asset if you went to trade for him. On the level of, I'd rather have Maxey than DeAndre Eden at a max deal. I think he. I think I love Tyler Hero, but I would, Tyler Hero's like going to get paid, and Maxey's, ahead of that. So, or behind that. So, but I think like the other asset part of it is going to make it really tough on the Sixers. Like, I don't really think it's realistic for him to end up at the Sixers. And I don't think Philly, in terms of like location, has the same sort of attractiveness as places like Miami and Phoenix. So
I don't know. I mean, he is a Philadelphia Union part owner, right? Isn't that correct?
5% minority owner. Yep.
I don't know. It really depends on, I think, everybody's value of what of who is higher than who and who would, the idea to me that DeAndre Eden is seen as DeAndre Eden about to get a max deal is seen as better than Tyrese Maxey. I think is crazy. I think is wrong for a guy that I don't know, he's just a screen. There's just big men that are just like screen and roll guys. Like they're fine.
He's fine.
Like, they're just like incredibly replaceable. And can he anchor a defense? Like maybe, but he totally fell apart in the playoffs, and now apparently has like attitude issues. At least with Monty Williams, where there was obviously weirdness in that game 7. So yeah, I mean, I look around. I think if they want to fully rebuild, the Sixers are not the team that they would trade Kevin Durant to. If Durant's on if the Sixers are on like the short list, say that like a 5-team short list for Durant, and the 5 teams are like Phoenix, Miami, let's say Toronto, and
Toronto can come up with a better package.
The Sixers, I think, can come up with. I think New Orleans, maybe Phoenix, although I mean it would require Mikal Bridges, I think. And Toronto and New Orleans would have an easier time coming up with the trade. But the Sixers have the path of like throw in some swaps in that 2029 pick, whatever, Maxey, Tobias, and a bunch of any guys that you believe in, Matisse, any like swings that you want to take on these young guys. It's sort of a split the difference deal if you don't want to fully rebuild, which if they're thinking all of their picks are already in Houston in the initial Harden trade, which they took instead of the Ben Simmons trade. So if they fully tank, they're not having their picks anyway.
I don't think they're going to do that, by the way. Like, I don't think they're going to fully tank. I don't think the Nets want to do that. That would be my guess, that they're not going to fully tank.
It's this very similar scenario happened a decade ago that Windhorst alluded to whisperingly, when it was the Garnett, Paul Pierce, they got rid of them and all the picks were already in Boston and stuff. And it's interesting. If they want to split the difference, I think Maxey as a young asset plus Tobias as like a stabilizing force plus like whatever picks the Sixers can offer or swaps plus some like young guys, I think it's like an option. But it would require Durant really wanting to come here and Brooklyn like really doing right by him. But like as a pure NBA observer type fan, I would Phoenix is interesting for sure. Would definitely be cool to see him there. Not a team that has like traditionally gotten free agents. Nobody's ever like really pushed get me to Phoenix type of thing. So that would be a cool, interesting thing for a team that really ended last year in a sour note. I really would love him in New Orleans. I would love him in New Orleans. That would be so cool.
Toronto, that would be a pretty sick team too.
Toronto would also be
NBA.
cool.
Yeah.
In New Orleans, it'd be like an Ingram trade or maybe a Zion trade if they thought that would. If that's what they would prefer. I think either of those guys, I'm obviously not as high on Ingram as most people are, but that'd be a cool trade for sure. And then Toronto, like the idea that, look, Scotty Barnes was great. He's a rookie of the year. He's interesting, but like he does not have the profile of like a number one go-to scorer at any point in his career. Like he's just not a good enough ball handler. He's not a good enough like self-creator. He's a really, really, really helpful player. I really like Scotty. He's awesome. But like he profiles more as like a higher energy Al Horford, that with like a more modernized, like that can also like handle the ball a little bit more and like be like switchable all over the place. But he's not going to be your number one option to like be an offensive scoring threat. I just don't really see it unless he like develops in a crazy way, which if he does, good for him. But like the idea that you wouldn't trade him for Kevin Durant when you have all this other infrastructure around that, whether it's Anunoby or Van Vliet or Gary Trent would probably get moved in that trade. But like the idea that they wouldn't trade somebody for Kevin Durant when you have the capability of winning a championship if you just insert him into that lineup, I think is kind of crazy.
Especially when they've already like sort of done that. Like, I mean, they didn't trade a Scotty Barnes for Kawhi Leonard, of course, but I think Scotty Barnes, I don't think you're meaning to underscore how good you think he's going to be. Like, I think he's going to be fucking like awesome. I mean, he was pretty sick as a rookie, but I do not think, I agree with you. I don't think he's a 25 to 30 point scorer at any point in his career, unless the team is fucking terrible.
He's just like a really, really helpful player, and will be like probably, I could see him being like a top 30 player in the league, but I don't see him getting much higher than that.
This is not something I haven't said before, but like the league truly needs to get a handle on this shit. Like, it's funny how when people like Kevin Durant do something like this, it's like player empowerment. It empowers like 9 players in the entire league. The people that it doesn't empower, which unions are generally protecting, are like rank and file, who do not have the ability of somebody like Kevin Durant to take short-term deals, all of those things. If you're
Korkmaz still hasn't gotten his trade request even answered. Nobody's even responded to it.
Well, think about if you're Seth Curry. Now, obviously, like people get traded, but like you end up at the Nets rather than the Sixers because Ben Simmons is like deciding he doesn't want to play somewhere. Like you cannot just say that you want out with 4 years left on your deal. Like you can't, they can't keep doing this. First of all, and at the end of the day, it is bad. We're all convinced it's good for the sport because of all the chatter it happens. It's good for like podcast downloads and ESPN and Twitter and all that kind of shit. But for fans who like watch games and buy tickets in a league whose viewership and attendance keeps going down, part of that is because the like people are losing connections to home teams, and connections to home teams are what viewership and ticket buying is about. It's just like, it's bad. I want players to have options, but I think when that's what free agency is, that's what a guaranteed contract is. And like, this is just like, I don't care that it's happening to Brooklyn, like personally as a Sixers fan, but I think it's like pretty bad for the league. And I think it's unfair to the other players. Yeah. I think it's unfair to the other players. So I think somebody in the YouTube chat just made a point, like the next CBA conversation, because I think the union quietly is probably like, this isn't great for us either. You know, it doesn't make us seem like good partners when, you know, our highest profile members are wreaking havoc like this. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
I don't necessarily agree that the like attendance numbers are correlated with people, high level people are asking for trade. I think that's probably more to do with the fact that tickets are very expensive. It's interesting. Like, on the one hand, I hear the arguments that it's like fun and good for business and stuff. I think this is a specific instance in that Kevin Durant wanted to be there, and then like shit just went really weirdly wrong because of Kyrie's insistence on not getting vaccinated, and then just like during the COVID situation. I don't really think Brooklyn did anything wrong
they let him pick his players and his coach. It's
in
like,
this situation. Yeah, they let him pick his players and his coach. They acquired Harden for a buttload of picks. And they were just like trying to make it work. I don't think like I guess I have empathy for Sean Marks in the sense that like that seems really like he's just doing his best out there. And maybe Joe Tsai, the owner, is being like headstrong or something and doesn't want to get bullied by a more famous but significantly less rich player. I don't know. So I feel empathy. Like I don't think they're a team like the Knicks or the Kings or any other, or the Sixers a number of times, bad franchise that just like constantly failed their players. I think it was just like circumstantial of like Kyrie is, you know, a very unique person. He's also like incredibly basic. I felt like he's the weirdest, like most basic person of all time. He posted a gif of like a bird flying out of a cage, and it was like, cool, man. Great. You got it. Let me dig into the meaning of this. But yeah, I don't know. I hear the idea that like with 4 years left, asking for a trade is strange, but I think it also is because this is such a specific circumstance. This is such a unique like things have gotten bad because of this. My guy who I brought here is not being able to, you know, fully be himself because of this thing, and he's not available, he's not playing as much, whatever, blah blah blah. So I think it's a unique situation. I don't think this is going to happen. I agree. I think Durant should take some responsibility for it. He doesn't have to. I mean, I guess he's just like, I'm Kevin Durant, I'm one of the best players in the league, I can do whatever I want, but he is at least partially responsible for this going wrong. But I think like the idea of bringing not random, but like bringing three disconnected superstars that all are used to having things their own way, bring them all together, not at least like two of them, and then we get a new one coming in and like gets folded into the system. I think it's hard to make it work of like on the fly, this many like new personalities coming together at once. And I think COVID just obviously exacerbated all of that.
Well, and it's notable that the super teams that have worked had a already present star and culture already there. Like when you talk about the Warriors with Durant and you talk about the Heat, Wade was there, and we can make fun of the Heat thing without, but they very famously did not let LeBron like do whatever he wanted, the same way that the Nets let Durant do whatever he wanted. And the same thing with Durant in Golden State, which is like what sort of led to the end of it. But they already had like this core, and just sort of betting only on talent is a dangerous bet when there's nothing else there, when there's no like backbone to it. So
I think it is the league is very good right now. There are a ton of good teams. Like we could talk about the Gobert trade in a second, but like
Yep.
I was just thinking about, okay, how much better does this make Minnesota? And better for sure, and especially as a regular season team, better. But like the West is going to be incredible next year.
Yeah,
like
with Denver. I mean, we'll get to that too. But
Denver's going to be better. The Clippers are going to be better. Dallas, you have to assume, is going to be there, if not better, then at least in the conversation. That's without thinking about. I mean, what if Phoenix sticks together? We'll see if say Phoenix gets Kevin Durant, then all of a sudden they're there too. Presumably the Lakers are going to be better. The Pelicans will likely take a step forward, at least in the regular season, from who they were in the playoffs. Like, there's a lot of really, really good teams there. Odds are the Blazers will be better for sure. I don't know if they're like a top 5 seed, but they'll be better. Like, this isn't a guarantee that the Wolves host a playoff series.
No,
like it's just
it will definitely be better in the regular season.
Absolutely better, but like the league is just really, really very good right now. There's a lot of very talented teams that on the front end, looking up, you can very easily name 10 teams that could win their conference in both conferences. So that's a good. This was a weird year. Like this was not no team was like dominant beginning to end, and that was fun about it. Like who's it going to be? But like it's a cool time for the league in a time when, especially after like LeBron and Warriors dominance for much of the 2010s, like it's all up in the air. It's going to change year to year based on who's healthy, basically.
We will get to the Gobert trade, the Brunson contract, the Brogden trade right after LL Pavorsky Jewelers. I've been corrected, Mike. Now, LL Pavorsky Jewelers, I don't need to be corrected. LL, the first sponsor ever of the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast, been with us for years. I keep saying more than 260 Rights to Ricky Sanchez customers have purchased engagement rings from LL. While that is true, it is actually sort of misrepresentative of what has gone on. He is at 282.
Wow.
I got a text yesterday. 282 Rights to Ricky Sanchez listeners have gone to LL for engagement rings. He's going on his annual vacation starting July 2nd, going through July 11th, back open on July 12th. Of course, he will answer email for any Rights to Ricky Sanchez listener. Just test him starting today because he's on vacation. Email him, lee@llpavorsky.com, lee@llpavorsky.com, and then he'll come back. We'll have the cabana sale, all that kind of stuff. The reason so many of our listeners have gone to LL for engagement rings is quite simply not because we tell you to, but because it is a great experience. It takes a process, which is like buying an engagement ring, which is really like nerve-wracking and can be frustrating and really not making it any of those things. He's a trustworthy person with a great product, give you a great price. So much so that you're going to be the only person he's dealing with when you go in there for an engagement ring. If you want to make an appointment, you can't do it between the 2nd and the 11th. No appointments then, but you can make one. Email him, lee@llpavorsky.com. You can tweet at him @llpavorsky. He might not be doing that on vacation. And the number is 215-627-2252. Been at 707 Walnut for more than 3 decades. Very, very handsome. Also a supporter of our charities. No update on that yet, Mike, but very close. But as of now, Providence Animal Center and Coded by Kids. LL Pavorsky Jewelers.
Will text Spike to make sure your engagement is counted.
For sure. Malcolm Brogdon. Well, actually, before we get to Brogdon, Jalen Brunson, 4 years, $108 million to the Knicks. I will go on record as saying that I think that deal will age much better than the DeAndre Ayton deal. I think like he's not going to turn them into like a 55-win team, but Jalen Brunson is like legitimately good, I think.
Yeah, he's fine. He's a good player, 100%. The contract is not the issue. It's the idea that the Knicks have not really done anything this offseason. They were bad last year, and they bring in a guy who is fine. Like, and I think part of it is people seeing like $100 million and going like, that's a max contract, which it hasn't been for 10 years or so. He's definitely a good player. I will say that like he's a guy that really likes spacing, and the Knicks
don't have it.
Don't have any. He's a super unique player. Like watching him in the Warriors series, like find ways to score just off the dribble with like hesitation. He's such a crafty little guy. And I love a lefty. The Knicks have so many lefties. It's crazy. He's definitely going to be a positive player. He's definitely stabilize the Knicks. But I just think like you're the fucking Knicks. Like, be normal and attract a star level player. It's like it seemed like they were just all in on Jalen Brunson for like months and months, and it's like what end is this going to get you? And I just don't. They're going to scrape to make the play in again.
I think what it could do. I think the bigger question for them now is Julius Randle, and having been in New York for the Julius Randle experience last year, like that is not a tenable situation. I don't think. Like I've never seen a player turn on like fans like that. Like it was very strange, and his play was terrible. I think that's a question. I think what you could argue, and I think Jalen Brunson could be a player who, with more time and more usage, like not that this is a James Harden situation or anything, but I think he could be like legitimately like really good. I think it's possible. You're at least creating an infrastructure for which is what I think they thought they had the year before, of a good team that if you can wipe away salary, a star would be like, oh, I'm like going to play with Jalen Brunson in New York at a team that won 46 games or 47 games or something. I think that's what they could be doing, theoretically.
Yeah, I just don't think they're going to get there. I think also RJ Barrett, another guy that really likes spacing. And it's just like they're just getting guys that are all lefties, are all going to be like operating in the same part of the court. I think they're going to be the 10 seed.
Wow.
It's just like, I mean, look at I think this goes to like the league is very good right now. Like look at the East right now. So it's teams that are going to be above the Knicks: the Heat, the Celtics, the Bucks, the Sixers, the Raptors. Absolutely. I would say the Bulls still. I would say the Hawks. I would say the Hawks definitely.
Yeah.
I would say the Cavs, another year of improvement. That's 8. And I believe in the Hornets a lot more than I believe in them. So even though the Nets are probably going to fall back, that's 9 teams. That's the Knicks at 10. So that's them competing with the Pistons, who are going to be a lot better. The Magic, who will be at least somewhat better. Maybe the Nets hang on if Kyrie stays. Who knows? The Pacers will be bad. The Wizards, who the fuck knows? Maybe they'll be competent. But I think the Knicks were the 11th seed last year. I think they'll probably be the 11th seed this year.
Let's speed through some other deals. Then we'll get to a quick Brett Brown mention and the Summer League roster. Malcolm Brogdon goes to the Celtics for Daniel Tice, Aaron Nesmith, Nick Stauskas, who is reunited with TJ McConnell,
wow.
and Boston's 2023 first round pick. I have Brogdon is not healthy enough, but I think it does help Boston. Like they needed another ball handler, and I think Malcolm Brogdon is like your third guard or whatever is a really solid, probably where he should be level.
I think
it better.
I think he's overqualified for this role. It's a great trade. It pisses me off that Indiana couldn't get more. I mean, people have been worried about Brogdon's medicals since the draft. I remember someone sent me like a list of for the Brogdon draft, which I think is 2016. Someone sent me a list of like what the like medical issues were that teams were concerned about, and Brogdon was like as concerning as like Embiid's was for some teams, whether it's his knees or whatever. And people are just he's obviously missed games, but like this is one of my pet issues. Like I think execs and coaches are like so horny for availability that they would rather have the worst player than the better player who's available sometimes. And I just disagree with that philosophically. Like give me the better player, and like the odds of like a better player getting healthy enough to contribute versus a worse player getting good enough to contribute, I think is just, that's not for me. I would rather take the better player and bank on medical staff getting there or like limiting minutes or whatever it is. Anyway, the Celtics were just so thin last year that and Udoka just rode them so hard, like 40 minutes. They're going to be a deeper team this year. I think that the odds of them, someone's going to get injured next year because of how deep into the playoffs they went. This is just kind of how it goes. But they're unquestionably a better team. It pisses me off, but like, yeah. I mean, and they're also like not good at drafting generally. Neesmith was a bad pick. Peyton Pritchard is fine, but like is going to struggle to be in that rotation because he's exploitable defensively. Brogdon's a little bit exploitable defensively, although a little better. If they sign Gallinari, he's another guy that's exploitable defensively. I would be, as a guy rooting against the Celtics, I would be thrilled every time Gallinari is on the court. But they're definitely going to be deeper next year, and they're a good team.
Devin Booker, John Morant, Nikola Jokic, Karl Anthony Towns, Zach LaVine all agree to max contracts or extensions, as does Bradley Beal. Bruce Brown goes to the Nuggets.
Which is, just before you get to Bruce, those are 5 or 6 max contract guys that are staying home with the teams that they stay home with. I mean, aside from Durant, I think it's a good sign that those for the health of the league, especially in the smaller markets, of guys going like, I'm re-signing with this team, and there is continuity there. I think having the mix of like free agency trade intrigue combined with like homegrown talent stays home for a buttload of money. I think that's a sign of a healthy league, in my opinion.
Assuming that they all like stay there. The Morant thing's different because this is second, like most players do that. But Booker, I agree. Jokic, I agree. Cat, I agree. Probably in the nick of time for Karl Anthony Towns. Bruce Brown, 2 years, $13 million for the Nuggets. It's a great fucking signing for them. It just is. He'll be a great player on that team.
Nobody would give him more money. That's crazy.
What's that?
Nobody would give him more money. That seems insane to me.
He is. I actually, because where I am, and because we're the Nets flagship station at Fan, I watched a lot of Nets. Bruce Brown is definitely a good player, is definitely a little better in your head than he is in real life sometimes. Like he can be maddening, but I agree with you. I think that's a great deal, and he'll be, he'll have to do exactly what they need him to do. Gary Payton II
Bruce Brown shot after the All-Star break. Bruce Brown averaged 15, 6, and 4, and a steal and a block per game on 47% 3-point shooting.
On a team that lost a lot of games.
For sure, but I mean, he's not going to be a number one guy, but I think he should be getting like at least 8 to 10 million closer for me. That seems really low. It seems like there's guys that are signing for more money that are worse players. And I also was always very high on Bruce Brown coming out of Miami. Just one of my guys.
Nick Batum and John Wall go to the Clippers, or Batum stays with the Clippers. John Wall goes to the Clippers after getting bought out. The Hawks trade Kevin Hurt.
I did want John Wall. Slightly.
I would have loved to have John Wall.
Would have kicked ass. And that's why part of my new and possibly upsetting to some people cut Charlie Brown Jr. Position is because they have a lot of wings, and the Sixers could use another on the two-way spot, which we'll get to in the summer league. Guys could use another guy that could dribble and get past players, because I as much as I love Melton, he's not a guy that I want with the ball in his hand all the time. and it's him and Shake right now, and kind of nobody else.
As I started to say, Herter goes to, where is it? Sacramento for Aaron Holiday, Mo Harkless, and a first-round pick. The Sixers own Justin Holiday. I'm sorry. The Sixers own Mo Harkless.
And
Gary
the Sixers own Justin Holiday. And the Sixers owner, Kevin Herter, who is still posting up Seth Curry somewhere.
Gary Payton goes to Portland for 3 years, $28 million. Good signing for them.
Love it.
They had Portland has had a good offseason, I think. I don't think they're a title contender, but they've had a good offseason. Dante.
No, they'll be better for sure. I don't love the Nurkic re-signing. I think it sort of like limits their upside, but he's definitely like a fine player. But like surrounding Dame with guys who are athletic and actually defend, for so long they just put around him like guys who could kind of look like they would defend, but like never, like Al-Farouq Aminu and that same Mo Harkless and stuff feel like they were there forever. But like Jeremy Grant is a good defender. He's going to be helpful and he can score a little bit. Gary Payton just fucking kicks ass. I love him. There was no reason why he was unsigned and like cut as many times as he was, but like they'll definitely be a better player. Your boy Anthony Simons, who is a very fun player,
4 years, $100 million.
Money. Yeah,
yeah,
Jalen
unbelievable.
Brunson money.
Yeah,
but yeah, they'll be better. But again, not a threat to contend in the same way that like whatever Washington did is going to be like great. Maybe they'll also be the 10 seed. I think the Blazers will be a play-in team. I think Brad Beal and Damian Lillard are delusional if they think that they're going to contend in either of the places that they're at.
I think the Trailblazers, now again, this gets into a numbers game with how many teams. The Trailblazers could win 53 games or something. I don't think the Wizards could. You don't think so?
No, not in the West. No, there's too many good teams right now. I think they'll win like 42.
Oh, I think they'll win more than that.
But like, there's not that many wins to go around, man.
I know, but I think they'll win more than that. Dante DiVincenzo goes to the Warriors. He'll be great there. 2 years, $8 million. I think the second year is a player option. And Chris Boucher, who has made every three-pointer he's ever taken against the Sixers, who I love, whose numbers do not equal what you see on the his numbers.
I know.
You're like, he shoots 30% for three. No, he shoots like 70. 3 years, $34 million.
There is no reason. There is no reason. Name me something that Kristaps Porzingis is better than Chris Boucher, even excluding the injuries.
I mean,
maybe
he's a better
Porzingis,
rim
who's
protector?
younger. No, I think Boucher's a better rim protector.
Ooh.
I think he is. I think he's longer, and I think he's more mobile back there. Maybe that is with the knee. Maybe Porzingis was better at getting his own offense when he was younger, but like now he's so slow and stiff.
In terms of
Boucher is just like,
yeah.
Boucher is just like, he's everything I want in a backup big. Everything in the world. Shooting and rim protection, and can be had for that low. And Miles Turner is a better player, but like offers the same kind of thing. Like, At least we're getting PJ Tucker, and that is like ostensibly a stretch 5 backup situation, but even in his own weird 6'5" way.
And Boucher wasn't available.
I would have killed for Chris Boucher, and he's going to keep killing us in Toronto.
Yeah, and there's no way the Sixers could get him. You know what I mean? Like, he obviously wanted to stay in Toronto. So,
yeah.
Before we get to the Summer League roster, and we have a great email about the Summer League roster to kick it off, the guy who many process haters said would never coach in the league again is coaching in the league again. Brett Brown goes to the Spurs.
I think those people meant like head coach in the league.
He'll be head coach again. This is the first.
I agree, but
Yeah,
I think this isn't quite proving them wrong or anything.
I just like, I am sure he had a great couple of years as his son went through high school and then committed to Penn early with his family, like decompressing from the fucking insanity he led his way through here. So congratulations to Brett Brown, who was a Spurs developmental coach. You know, that's what his specialty was, and goes back as they sort of process it. And who knows who ends up being the next head coach of the Spurs? Like, he has a great relationship with Pop, but I don't think it's impossible.
There's been so many like Pop successor types floated around the league, and those guys are getting jobs. Will Hardy going to Utah is one of them. There's a ton of those kinds of people, and it might just be Brett. They might just give it to Brett after however long Pop wants to keep riding it out. But yeah, they're going to be real bad. I think maybe Utah if they end up trading Donovan Mitchell. maybe Houston, although they might just have enough talent to move a little bit. There's a lot of teams that are going to start to fall off. I think that, as I said last podcast, like the middle class of the NBA, that 32 to 40 win is. I think there's going to be very few teams in there as teams decide, let's get into that bottom 6 or whatever to try to get Wembanyama.
Brett Brown was always like great to us, a NBA head coach who will agree to come out on stage for a live podcast to Stone Cold Steve Austin music, and then actually sort of tear up when we inducted him into the Process Hall of Fame as a surprise. Nice. He did. He was genuinely touched. And I do think historically, the job that he did in Philadelphia, I think, is unprecedented, and I think history will smile upon it. It is almost impossible for a coach to go through the rebuilding part and also be there when the team wins 50 games for a couple of years. And with the general manager turnover, all that stuff, he wasn't infallible, of course, but he was always like a really good dude. And I thought he did a good job here. I'm glad he's back in the league on his terms, you know.
For sure. A couple more free agent things that I wanted to just point out.
Sure.
Otto Porter going to the Raptors on a small deal. He's going to be helpful. One of the guys that I would have liked the Sixers to take a look at. Yeah, he's not going to miss a shot against the Sixers for sure. Kyle Anderson again with the Wolves for 218. I thought that was nice, and especially when they traded so much of their depth in the Gobert trade. I'm excited to see it. If Anthony Edwards takes a huge step forward and becomes like one of the top 20 players in the league or something over the next couple of years, then that'll just work. But like, man, I don't like D'Angelo Russell at all.
No,
I really don't like D'Angelo Russell.
But
a little bit.
That's got to be. He's on the last year of his deal, right? Isn't he?
Yeah, but I don't know if they're going to have money to replace him because they're paying so much money to those two big guys.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe they just say like Kyle Anderson, you're the point guard. Just go be the point guard, and Kyle Anderson and Anthony Edwards just like doing it together. But
I can't stand D'Angelo Russell. Yeah, I think he stinks. Summer League. Here's a question from Anna to rightstrickysanchez@gmail.com. You can send us questions there, or 833-LickFace to leave us a voicemail to bully Mike. Question from Anna. Is this the most Mike Levin Sixers Summer League team of all time? Bassie and Paul Reed give us two bigs that Mike loves. And look at the wings. Isaiah Joe, Charlie Brown Jr., and Queen, Springer, and Riller to create. That looks like a really good team, though I am surprised to see third-year players Joe and Reed here. But who cares? Is this the most Mike Summer League team of all time?
This is definitely the best Summer League team of all time. This Summer League team is incredible. Paul Reed is not going to play in Vegas. He's just going to play in Salt Lake City, which is cool. But it's good anyway because there's not only B-Ball Paul, but also Bassie is going to get a bunch of minutes. He's going to dominate. He was huge in the G League when he played. They're bringing over, I think they said they're bringing over Petrushev for who they drafted in the second round a couple years ago, who is currently a Sixers stash. And then there's sort of just like a competition with the backup point guard or the two-way point guard minutes. Miles Powell was a Sixers two-way last year and didn't really stand out in any way. He's a shooter, but like pretty small, pretty doughy, not that athletic. Can't really get by guys. If you're going to be that small as a shooter, you really got to be like Bryn Forbes, like scooting all over the court. And I just don't really see it with Miles Powell. Grant Riller, who I love, who got hurt. I think he hurt his shoulder when he was on a two-way last year. Definitely a guy I believe in 100%. I hope he takes the job. But there's also Cassius Winston, who was a pick by the Wizards, who went to Michigan State, 4-year guy, like very like stabilizing veteran type of point guard. People looked at him as like maybe he can be Fred VanVleet during the like everyone can be Fred VanVleet if they like are smart enough. Winston is also slow, but he's a better ball handler than Miles Powell is, and he's a better passer, better decision maker. If they want just like a capable like caretaker type point guard, that's an option. I really like Tyler Bay as a guy that was drafted. I think he was drafted in the first round a couple years ago out of Colorado. And he's 24. No, he's drafted early second round. He's 24, super athletic, bouncy, theoretical defender, theoretical shooter. But like, as far as like, we're just going to get athletes here that still maybe have some untapped upside. I think Tyler Bay is a great Summer League pickup. And I love Justin Smith, another sort of similar guy, more of like maybe a small ball five, kind of similar to Braxton Key, who was on the team on the Sixers last year. And then I had a cup of coffee with Detroit, I believe, Braxton Key from Virginia and Arkansas also. But yeah, Justin Smith is a rebounder, roll man, hustle player, Love that. They also got Aminu Muhammad, Aminu Muhammad and Michael Foster Jr. were signed like immediately after the draft as undrafted free agents. Muhammad went to Georgetown, one of Dan Pfeiffer's boys. He is left-hand. He's basically like a Lou Dort starter package. Lou Dort, by the way, who got 5 years, $85 million, which I'm pretty sure they only signed him to so they could eventually trade that contract, or they just have to give that money to someone. So good for Lou Dort as an undrafted player getting that money. But Muhammad is, he's a total hound on defense, like absolute pest and physical and strong, but he has such a small amount of offensive skill. The shot is ugly as hell. He's lefty. Really is bouncy, really is an NBA athlete, but just like nothing doing offensively. And Michael Foster Jr. was also another high level prospect, came out of the went to G League and performed there, but like I just don't really buy it. He's a screen and roll big man with like a really long, ugly shot. I don't think he's a very smart player, but he's young, and maybe they can just like add him into the system and see if he can develop a little bit. But as far as the team goes, like Isaiah Joe playing summer league, he has not played enough in the NBA to be like poo-pooing summer league. He's got to prove it, whether it's here or somewhere else. Get Jaden Springer second year in there. I love it. I want to see that. I would just kill to see a second year Jaden Springer improvement. That would validate me in so many ways. I would love it in a really high level. By the way, and then Julian Champagny, who's already signed to a two-way out of St. John's, who is long and can shoot and can theoretically defend a little bit. Definitely one of those long Sixers wings which is why I've bumped down Charlie Brown Jr. in my list of people that they need. As much as I did like Charlie Brown Jr., hope he catches on somewhere else. Yeah, it's just, look, I know I get a lot of shit for like getting excited about young guys and hoping that they perform. What?
You're you. That's what you're supposed to do.
But it's exciting. It's also like guys. There's guys I don't believe in for sure, but there's also like it's easy to say, yeah, that guy's probably not going to work out, and just be like, all right, well, and the Sixers probably aren't going to like win a championship. And it's like, well, you're going to be right most of the time. You're going to be right that most guys don't work out. You're going to be right that most Sixers teams are not going to contend for a championship, whatever. But like, this is a fucking Sixers podcast. It's fun to get excited about them. If things come together for some guys, there's a reason why they're at this level. If they have like an NBA skill to hang their hat on, then I can see it, and I want to see it, and I get excited about it because it's fucking NBA, and these guys coming out of nowhere sometimes or having a second chance. I get maybe I'm emotional. Maybe I'm a softie for athleticism and upside and passing and defense and everything. But I want it. So anyway, the second two-way player, I think should be one of those point guards, whether it's Grant Riller or Cassius Winston, because I don't think that they have enough like get by you type depth behind Harden and Maxey. Even though Milton I like and Melton I love. I would still like a little bit of options back there. So I hope it's Grant Riller. I hope he just dominates. That would be ideal for me.
Looking forward to Summer League. We're actually going to pod during one of the Summer League games. I think the game against the Heat on in the 16th or something like that. So 13th.
Yeah, which will be the first time we've ever done that, I think.
Well, yeah, we started at the end of a game once because the game was so bad, I think. But I don't think we ever podded during a Summer League game. So
or a regular season game.
No.
First, almost over 9 years in, and we're still innovating over here. A Ricky watch party.
The Hard to Stomach YouTube comment of the week, which we end on, comes from Jacob Knaff. It was during the Paul Reed episode. Jacob says, you really got to reel Paul Reed in. He could go on for hours if you let him. Paul Reed, man of very few words. We love people,
I love him.
Paul.
I think he's look, he's developing his skills on the court, and we're going to see it off the court. I think he was a little nervous. I think he also just woken up from a nap. But
didn't know who we were. Didn't know why he was doing what he was doing.
Wasn't sure about it entirely, but I just wanted him to know. I wanted to tell him that Doc sucked for not playing him earlier, that we were on his side. Yeah. And as long as I conveyed that to him personally, then it was a successful interview for me.
Yeah, I think we got that. We will talk to you. I think it is Wednesday night. Hope you're having a good time on vacation, CJ. We fucking did it without you, motherfucker. Are you down with TTP?
Yeah, Lick face.